All right. So the next speaker is a very prestigious person. It's me, basically. So, so I'm going to talk about holiday season planning. Now, quick show of hands. How many of you had your own e-commerce stores last year during the holiday season, meaning October to December, January? Quick show of hands. Wow, only 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, no, okay, gradually everyone remembers what they were doing last year. Okay, seems like about half the room. And was that the best season for sales for you? Okay. So this is exactly what most people experience. There's a sharp spike in sales towards the end of the year. And what we would like to spend some time on next is to discuss how we can prep for this and make sure that we're really maximizing the opportunity that the end of year presents. Is there anyone in this room who is not running campaigns that are targeted at countries outside of Asia? Is there anyone in this room who is not targeting the US, UK, Australia, Western Europe? So, okay, every single person is targeting these countries. Fantastic. That means that the next quarter, October to December, and running over into January is going to be the busiest time of the year for you. All right, so what can you do to get ready for this season from an ads perspective? Let's start with a fun stat. If last year you found a spike in your sales in November and December, okay, no surprise. But in reality, most people, about half of the people, start to do their holiday shopping even before November. So the first secret that you've learned today is that if you only start to focus on scaling up your campaigns in November and December, you're doing it at the exact same time as everyone else. Get a head start earlier, capture those early shoppers. So what can you do between now and September to make sure that you're really geared up for the end of year? You can focus on making sure that you've got all the pieces in place, get your experimenting hats on, start to come up with those creative ideas. If you've been hesitant about using perhaps a new delivery option, fulfillment partner, or you've been hesitant about creating your own creative because you don't know whether that's going to be valuable for you, now to September is the time to do all of that. So we want to build momentum in this time. It's already the end of July. And the next 2 months are going to be crucial for you to build up that momentum to really maximize the sales from October to December. Now, for those people who don't hold inventory or just ship directly from China, and you're reliant on your China suppliers, you may have had a problem in January. Was there anyone in this room who had a problem with getting in touch with their suppliers in the second half of January in 2017? Yep. So during Lunar New Year, everyone knows that China pretty much shuts down for a couple of weeks. And so for those people who were not holding inventory, I noticed something very interesting going on in the ad accounts. Everyone came down to zero. And then all of us had a collective panic. And I started calling everyone and going, what's going on, guys? What do you want me to do? My supplier's on holiday for the foreseeable future. So the bad news there is that if you're going to let that happen to you again in January this year, you're missing out on a lot of people who are still in the market looking for post-season bargains. It's not unique to our part of the world that a lot of people get their bonuses at the end of the year. So they're still busy spending that money in January. And if you've got especially a perennial product, like Ray mentioned earlier, it's not just something that's trending or something that's you're just riding like a popularity wave right now. If you're selling a perennial product, January is still one of the hottest months for sales. So how can you build your audience and your momentum between now to September? The first thing that you want to do is identify and test key audience segments. Is there anyone in this room who's doing zero targeting, meaning you just go worldwide, let the pixel hand do its thing? One hand, one brave soul who admitted it. I know a few of you are also doing this. Okay? All right. So here's the thing. When you do worldwide zero targeting, you're putting a lot of faith in the Facebook delivery algorithm to find the right people for you. There's nothing wrong with that. We continue to make it better. We have teams that look at making that better all the time. But if you think about it, if I was just to talk to any two people in this room, I'm pretty sure that I'd have to say different things to convince you to buy the lemon sprayer. Right? Maybe one of you is someone who's really into cooking. And so the lemon sprayer is something where I can talk to you about how this allows you to then, explore new recipes, maybe new cuisines. I don't know how the lemon sprayer would do that, but just hypothetically. Or maybe someone's really into making cocktails. Now that sounds like a pretty straightforward sell to me, right? Someone who's interested in making cocktails, spray some lemon into your drink. But the point here is that two people can respond very differently to the same message. And it's very easy to find people on Facebook based on interests and the topics that they're interested in. But if you just rely on using your product using your product and a generic creative and a generic message as a way of converting that person, you're missing out on a massive opportunity. You should really be thinking about how you can tailor your message to the audience. So the next thing that you can look into, once you've started thinking about how audiences are different and how the messages might need to be different for them, is to know your customer's conversion path. This could look different for different customers as well. Now, supposing parents are a category for a product that you have, that path to conversion might look very different from a younger crowd for a different product. How many people in this room use their Google Analytics? Couple of hands, okay. Have you heard of Facebook Analytics? Okay, so the idea behind Facebook Analytics is that if Facebook is your number one advertising channel, then look at Facebook Analytics for those funnels, build out your cohorts, really dive into it. It's pretty intuitive. And for most people, if you just spend some time diving into your numbers, you may realize that your conversion rates from, website visitors to, people who viewed products, add to cart, checkout, conversion, you may be able to identify where the big drop-offs are. So understand what that path to purchase looks like. And we'll also have a session from PayPal after this where they'll talk about how you can reduce friction in some of those areas. But if you're not looking at your analytics, then you're basically advertising on a prayer. And if you're in this room right now, you can get a step up on everyone else who's going to be entering the market at the end of the year by understanding where your drop-off is in your funnel. Test your creative strategy. We talked about this pretty much the whole day, so I'm not going to go into that too much. Here's a couple of interesting stats for you, some more surprising than others. It should come as no surprise that if your product appeals to a younger audience, millennials, they are buying on mobile. But it may come as a surprise to you that, in fact, parents demonstrate increasingly mobile-first shopping behavior towards the end of the year. So parents, well, I can relate to this. So it's pretty easy to buy stuff on a mobile with one hand because you're like trying to keep your kids who are fighting apart with the other hand. But mobile is a fantastic way to get parents to convert at the end of the year. So if your creative is not optimized for mobile, and you're basically using that standard video or image that's come to you from the supplier, you're not necessarily reaching segments that are more active during the holiday season. Okay. How many people in this room do a simple communications plan for a product that you've found is working and you want to scale out? No one. Okay, I'm not surprised by this because this is one of the biggest missed opportunities for this community. You guys are entrepreneurs. You're fantastic at trying to get people to buy stuff. You're fantastic at finding ways to increase those conversion rates. But I'm constantly amazed by how few people do something as simple as tailoring messages to audiences and thinking about this in a structured way. Just popping it into a table, thinking about what the campaign objective is in October versus December or January, depending on what your own promotions, your shipping promotions, for example, are at that time of year. Breaking that out by the campaign name, by the campaign objective, and the target audience will all of a sudden make it a lot easier for you to know what exactly you're doing today. If you wake up every morning and react to what's going on in your ads manager on that day, you're basically pressing buttons. You don't have a plan. And you may succeed, and many of you have succeeded. But as you scale, as you start thinking about hiring other people to do stuff for you, maybe you already have people who are running ads for you, building creative for you, you're going to want to keep everyone aligned. And this is something that every e-commerce entrepreneur, business owner should be doing in order to align their marketing teams with them. You've had success in the past not doing this because that was the gold rush on e-commerce entrepreneurship. But increasingly, this kind of rigor and structure will differentiate you from the horde of people who have now realized that there's a quick buck to be made by just throwing a product up there with something generic. Okay. Advertising across Facebook, Instagram, and audience network is something that is very surprisingly underutilized by a lot of advertisers. There are some, I've had feedback in the past where people have said, yeah, but I don't think my product's right for Instagram. Or audience network, what's that? If you see automatic placements in your ads manager during setup, we typically recommend going with this option for a very, very rational reason. If you think about Facebook, Instagram, and audience network, and what the Facebook family is, what our value proposition is, all of you have a real Facebook profile, your identity, and you're that same person across Facebook, Instagram, or the third-party websites, apps that you use. Now, if your target audience is parents, that person is the exact same person across Facebook, Instagram, or audience network. So when you advertise on Facebook only, you may get varying cost per conversion. A simple way to think of this is, this guy is really cheap to convert, that guy is really expensive. But when you only advertise on Facebook, your average cost per conversion may come in at this line. If you advertise on Instagram only, this is another distribution of what those cost per conversion could be. And now you start to see that the average cost per conversion is lower because there are people who would convert on Instagram for cheaper than people could convert on Facebook. And when you add audience network into the mix, all of a sudden your average cost per result is lower. So if you haven't tested this in the past, please test it. This could make a huge difference to you during the holiday season and maximizing those sales opportunities. Okay. Let's skip ahead. I think looking at time, we're a bit short. Okay. So looking at the key dates that you need to be working towards this holiday season, Singles Day, that's a big one. Black Friday and Cyber Monday, I think, are the ones that every single person in this room is already capitalizing on. But the missed opportunities start to come up when you look at December onwards. People are in the market for Christmas shopping in the weeks leading up to Christmas, but they remain in the market post-Christmas as well. So if you believe that your peak sales season is pre-Christmas and peaks during Cyber Monday and Black Friday, yes, Cyber Monday and Black Friday and Cyber Monday are really important, but continue to push for those conversions after that, for the last-minute shoppers, and for those who are hunting for bargains post-Christmas as well. We use conversation on Facebook as a way to understand what the level of activity and how much time people are spending is. So if you look at this, there's a spike during Thanksgiving. if you look at this, there's a spike during Thanksgiving. And that is a season that I think typically most people forget is actually a gift-giving season. It's a time of reunion for many, many families, especially in the US. And gifts are traded. And so people are in the market looking for bargains at that time as well. So again, remember, it's not just about December. Holiday shopping season begins in October. Get started early. And now that you know that October is actually a peak period as well, don't wait till November and December to begin scaling out your campaigns. You're missing out on sales. Of course, capitalize on the big opportunities that come up in November and December as well. So all the intent, all the testing, all of that experimentation that's happened from now to September, you want to capitalize on that from October to December. If you walk away from this session thinking that you want to focus more on branding, use the next 2 months to build some awareness around that. If you remember from Ray's presentation, he said one of the things that is a universal truth about advertising is that people need to see things a few times before they're convinced. He gave us the example of that wallet, and he saw the ad 10, 15 times, and he bought it. And that's a product that's $100+. So it's okay to show a person an ad 10 to 15 times. Think about this for your products as well. If your product gives you a bigger margin, don't be afraid to expose people to the ad for longer. When people need to think about a purchase for longer, when it's a higher consideration product versus a cheaper impulse buy, you will need to invest in showing them the ad for longer in most situations before the conversion happens. Finally, don't forget about the opportunity post-December as well. 65% of shoppers plan to keep shopping after Christmas. If you're not holding inventory for most of the year, it's fine. But you may want to consider making an exception for the month of January when you can anticipate that suppliers are going to be hard to reach. And so this is the one time of year, if you want to hold inventory, it makes a lot of sense because you're going to be able to capitalize on this opportunity for those who are in the market post-Christmas. More stats that tell us that 60% of people actually say they spend more money than usual after the holiday season is over. Maybe you got a lot of ang paos this Christmas. Okay, so let's summarize. Get ahead of the holiday rush. Don't wait till November and December to scale your campaigns. Use August and September to learn, test, experiment, build momentum, and start maximizing those sales from October. 1 minute, one hand shopping is basically saying make sure that your creative looks good on mobile. Don't use the standard stuff that doesn't make sense on mobile because it's not designed for mobile. Third, people can buy in feed as well. So the feed is across Facebook, Instagram, and people actually convert at higher numbers across Facebook, Instagram, and the audience network during the holiday season. So don't be afraid to go beyond Facebook or run your campaigns across Facebook, Instagram, and audience network. Finally, don't forget that January is a huge opportunity. Make sure that you have inventory and that you continue to maximize the opportunity to drive sales in January. Okay. Thank you. We're going to move on to the next session where we're going to invite our partners from PayPal to share with us some tips